So what is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Jimmy and welcome back to channel C.G.E. Today we are here because I believe it was yesterday. We've had this car now for exactly 2 years. Celebrated our 2-year anniversary, I guess. If you're new to the channel, I personally own a 2004 PT Cruiser GT as my car. That thing is my baby. I love it. I've owned that thing for about 2.5 years now. I bought it in, I believe, February of 2016. So yeah, that'd be about exactly 2.5 years. And then my family ended up buying this one that following July. A lot of people like to pick on the PT Cruisers. A lot of people like to hate on them, but they either haven't experienced one for themselves and they're just picking on the stereotype, or they had a bad experience one and they just happen to be unlucky, or they just aren't really a fan of the styling and they're being a jerk about it. A lot of people have picked on me and my channel because I am a PT guy. I absolutely love them. I will always own one. I'll always own my PT GT, but this car right here has treated our family super well. So I kind of wanted to go over what we've done to the car and just how it's treated us in general. So I'm going to start out with what most people are probably wanting to know, and that is what all have we had to do to the car, what things have broke, what have we had to fix since we've owned it. And most of you guys know that around 100,000 miles you start to see a lot of little problems, but that's not just PT Cruisers. People will try to tell you that these things are a piece of junk because of the problems they have, but a lot of cars have issues, especially around that mileage. Don't expect any miracles when you buy a car with that many miles. Bought this car with about 100 and I want to say like around 105,000 miles on it.
No.
Hey, do you happen to remember how many miles were on the PT Touring when we bought it?
I think it was like in the low 90s.
Okay, it was in the 90s. Okay, well,
like 92, maybe 91.
Okay, alright. I was confused because I was thinking of my car. You want to say hi to the video?
Hi, video.
I was mistaken. This car had a lot less miles than that. It had 91 or 92,000. I was thinking of my own car. I don't know how I got the two confused, but my car had like 105 when I bought it, or somewhere in there. So we put about 10,000 miles a year on it, which is fairly average. But honestly, considering we have had very good luck with this car and it's treated us very well and it's been very reliable. So to start out with, we bought the car in July, and that following winter, the alternator went bad. It started whining and the battery light came on, so I ended up replacing that myself. By the way, all the jobs I'm talking about, this video about it, I'll link that all down in the description. So in case anybody's wondering, wants to know a little bit more in depth about the things that I've done to this car and trying to get a better idea of how it's done or whatever, I'll link all those down below. So be sure and check them out if you would like to see things a little bit more in depth. I'm just summarizing today. Then that following spring, my mom noticed the AC wasn't quite working right. And I forgot to mention before, but this is pretty much my mom's car. Our whole family uses it from time to time, but she wanted a car that was more hers, since we've always had a family car. That Dodge Durango that you've seen in videos was our family car for years since I was a kid, and we still have it and we still use it for a lot of different things, but this was more of her little car, if you know what I'm saying. But anyways, back to what I was talking about before. Weather started to get warm. My mom noticed the AC was acting a little weird, and she has to have air conditioning, so she ended up taking it, I want to say she took it to a dealership actually, and had them check out the AC system. They ended up replacing a hose or two, recharging the system, and then that was perfectly fine as well. Then a little while after that, we ended up having one of the wheel bearings go bad, so I told her just to take it to a shop and have it done, because I could do it here, but they still have to take it to somebody to have the bearing pressed in and out. So she ended up taking it to some place and they did that. That was no big deal. Then a while later, the other wheel bearing went bad, and I probably should have told them to replace both the wheel bearings, but you know, it is what it is. So they ended up replacing both of them again. Apparently, I don't know what was up with the other one, but they said that they needed to replace them both again. The one they did, there was something, I don't know what the heck was wrong with it, but they ended up replacing them both, and the one free of charge. They got all that done. We put 2 new tires on the car as well, got it aligned and everything. We were good to go until later that fall, when we were noticing another weird issue with the air conditioning. When the compressor would start to cycle, it would just bog the car down, and you could see the RPMs drop and it stutter and want to stall. I was thinking obviously that it was a compressor or something that needed to be replaced, but I did some more research and I found out that it could have possibly been a fan issue, because if the fan's not kicking on like it's supposed to with the AC, what happens is it's not drawing enough air through the condenser and causing the high side to spike. Then the pump bogs and it shuts itself off so that it, well, doesn't destroy itself. I was a little bit doubtful, but I ended up checking out the fans. I replaced the relays, and then of course that didn't help anything, so I ended up replacing the fan. It was a little bit of a job, a little bit of a pain, but I got that replaced, and then everything was working perfectly fine. So that was our issue. So I ended up making a whole video on that, and that helped out quite a few people with a similar issue. Then from there, it was just some general maintenance stuff I did. I think I replaced spark plugs. I don't remember if I replaced the wires or not. I did like an intake manifold gasket and a valve cover gasket, you know, some general maintenance stuff, something that most people do in their cars cars get up around that mileage. Took care of a few little things like that. That helped with a code that got thrown for a misfire. Pretty standard stuff. I did a coolant flush as well at one point, and I replaced the thermostat just for general maintenance. But there were no real issues with the car until later this spring. We actually noticed a little bit of a vibration when we were driving on the highway. So I was personally thinking it was a CV axle, and that's just what the vibration felt like. It didn't feel like a tie rod end, but I ended up checking everything over. Sure enough, one of our outer tie rod ends was pretty bad, and they all were getting bad, so I ended up replacing all the inner and outer tie rod ends. That was kind of funny because I challenged myself to get that job done in one day. It's kind of a joke we had going that no matter what job I was doing, it always took me 3 days because something got screwed up. I didn't have a part or a tool that I needed or whatever. Everything takes Jimmy 3 days to do. So I was like, I'm determined to get this job done in one day, but of course it ended up taking me 3 days as well to completely finish. Reason being is I have a tool for the inner tie rod ends that goes over the tie rod itself and goes in and you put little inserts in it that'll fit on, but that's only if your tie rod end has squared off ends down in there. Some of them don't have anything to grip onto. They're completely round and completely smooth, which is kind of stupid. But of course the original ends on this were completely smooth, so I ended up getting this little tool. It's basically like a heavy C-clamp with splines in it. You tighten that down on the end and then get a really long extension or link a couple extensions together, get a breaker bar on that, and you can usually break it loose. That worked perfect for this job. And since I finished that job up, there has not been any problems since then, and that was a few months ago now. Considering how much this car has been driven, it's been daily driven basically ever since we owned it. Actually, just a couple days ago, we drove it to Niagara Falls, which is about like a 2 hour, maybe 2.5 hour drive from here. It's about 4 hours round trip, and the car drove perfectly fine. Actually, I drove it the whole time. It was really a pleasure to drive up there and back. I mean, PT Cruiser is Personal Transport Cruiser. That's what it stands for, and that's truly what this car is. It drives really, really nice, and especially for the price. Even when these cars were brand new, they were cheap. But now, I mean, this car, we definitely didn't pay $5,000 for it. It was under $5,000. I don't remember how much we paid for it, but it's a lot of car for the money. They drive really, really nice. We have a Cadillac DTS as well, and I always rant about how that car is my favorite to drive. As far as comfort goes, it just floats down the road, and I love that car to death. But if I had to pick a second favorite as far as how comfortable it is to drive, I would say this car, honestly. And that's saying something because I've driven a brand new Chevy Malibu Premium. I've also driven, I think it was a 2013 Cadillac CTS. I've driven a few cars in my day, and this I would definitely say is my second favorite as far as comfortable, just like road trip car, I guess. It's a really fun car to drive. It's very unique. The only thing I can say is it is a little underpowered compared to my GT, but my GT is also a completely different animal. It drives totally different. It's not as, I would say, comfortable as this car, but my car is also lowered, has wheel spacers, it's got a bunch of stuff done to it. It's more meant to go fast and not truly a cruising car. As long as you're not trying to win any races, this car is perfectly fine. But I absolutely love this car. Our whole family loves this car. We drive it everywhere. I wouldn't hesitate to buy another one similar to this that's an NA, maybe with a 5-speed. Depending on where life takes me, like if I had a job where I had to drive a little bit of distance to get there and I had to commute for some reason, I wouldn't hesitate to buy another one of these and daily drive it. And one more thing I want to address, because I know some people are going to wonder about it, is the timing belt and the water pump change. People usually tackle that around 100,000 miles. Some people have actually broken timing belts on these cars before 100,000 miles. But something a lot of people get confused about is this car is a zero interference motor. It is not an interference motor. In case you don't know what that means, basically if it's interference, that means that if your timing belt or timing chain or whatever were to break and come loose, that you could bend some things in your engine and cause some serious problems and destroy your motor. These cars are zero interference motors, so basically that means if your timing belt comes off, your timing belt breaks or whatever, it's just gonna shut off and it's not gonna turn back on. Recently, I was up underneath this car. I looked everything over. Ball joints are perfectly fine. All the other bushings in the front end are perfectly fine. Everything is solid. Also, if you look just right with a mirror, you can see up in at the water pump and kind of get a look at the water pump, and you can kind of see the belt as well. And the belt looked to be in good shape to me, and also the water pump has not leaked a drop, which is definitely a concern, because if the water pump's leaking, then you might as well tear it all apart and get that job done, because you don't want to blow your water pump up. That was the problem with my car, and when I ended up doing my timing belt and my water pump, because my water pump was actually leaking. But I'm not going to worry about it on this car for a while. At some point, we'll probably end up taking it apart and doing it, but for now, at least for the rest of this year, we're not going to worry about it. And then at some point, we probably will tear it apart and fix all that up. Other than that, the only thing I can think of that needs to be worked on is the Watts link right there. When the Watts link goes bad, you hear it clunking in the rear end, but it's not really essential to anything. It's just gonna clunk and drive you nuts. So at some point soon, we'll probably replace that in the lateral arms. But other than that, this car is perfectly fine. I mean, it might as well be a brand new car. But seriously, my family loves this car. I love this car. Never regret buying it for a second. It has been surprisingly reliable and had surprisingly few issues, but we've also taken really good care of it for how much it's been driven. And it's definitely here to stay. There's only one problem. It does not pass the fist test. I mean, I could fit almost 2 fists in here. So leave a like on this video if you think that mom should get some nice wheels for this car. Maybe even put some teen springs on it as well and lower it a little bit. That would look pretty sweet. Some nice wheels on there. Comment down below what wheels you think would look good on this as well. I'm thinking probably a 17-inch, same size that's on mine. Like the same size tire, like a 215/55 or 215/50 or something. I think that would look pretty sick. So again, be sure to hit that thumbs up button if you think mom should get some new wheels. That would be sick because this thing's gonna need some tires at some point anyways. I have a feeling I'm gonna have a hard time getting her to do that, but that would make a cool video. So be sure and go hit that thumbs up button. If you have any questions about the car, I know I'm very ADD, so I forget what I'm talking about while I'm talking about it. So I probably left some stuff out, or you guys might have some stuff you're wondering about the car as well. Be sure and comment down below if you have any questions about the car. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you did. And also be sure and go smash that subscribe button if you have not already, because I make a lot of videos on this car and my own PTGT, and I just make a lot of random car videos and a lot of videos in general. I don't really know, but we just have a lot of fun here on channel C.G.E, so be sure and hit that subscribe button, turn on that bell for notifications to see whenever stuff comes out here on the channel. Again, thank you guys so much for your support, and thank you for watching. You rock, God bless, and I will see you in the next one.